Thank you everyone for jumping on today. I'm Kalyn New and I'm the Senior Director of Product and Customer Marketing at CM Group. I really wanted to cover this topic as I know how disheartening it can be when your meticulous work around positioning and messaging doesn't see the light of day. It can be challenging to get your key stakeholders on board and for them to understand the importance of positioning, how it can benefit them, and then the practicality of how to implement it. So I'm going to take you through my process to refresh and refine product positioning and messaging, including how to ensure key stakeholders are bought in from the beginning. I'll also walk through practical examples to show how this strategy can be applied in the real world so product marketers can see their work come to life and touch all corners of their organization. But before I jump in, just wanted to give you a bit of info on my background and CM Group. So CM Group is the largest portfolio of email and multi-channel marketing products in the industry. We're privately owned, and the benefit of our portfolio approach is that we can really help our marketers grow their business, and there's a true home for marketers of every scale and varying levels of sophistication. So we offer products across B2C and B2B, as well as from self-service and SMB right through enterprise. Some of the brands that you might be a bit more familiar with include Campaign Monitor, SailThrough, Live Clicker, and Selligent. So I started my career in a B2C e-com company, actually a direct-to-consumer wine company here in Australia. Now I've been with CM Group, which is mainly B2B, for the last 3.5 years. And in both B2C and B2B, I've always been a customer advocate, looking to ensure a seamless customer experience at every touch point. So positioning and messaging is something that's very near and dear to my heart, and I'm really looking forward to sharing my process with you today. Now, this talk is aimed at established businesses who already have customers and a certain level of product market fit. If this isn't you, or even if it is, and you haven't read April Dunford's book, Obviously Awesome, which I just happen to have on the desk next to me, add it to your Amazon cart right now. She does an amazing job of taking you through the process from start to finish with a new product and ensuring product market fit before you get started. So today I'm going to talk through what problem we're solving with positioning and messaging, the cross-departmental benefits, then I'll go into the how-to of each stage and wrap up with some practical examples and application. So as product marketers, we all know that it's not enough just to describe features. We're told that we need to describe the benefit to the customer, and that's where many companies stop. Many do a great job at describing features, something your product does or has. Some do a good job at describing the benefits, what the feature enables for customers, but not many take it to that next level and actually describe the value, how the feature maps to the goal the customer is trying to achieve. April Dunford does a great job of describing this in her book, and these are her definitions that I've taken here. And here's an example to just give you some color. So I like to think of this as the so what test. So in this example, the feature is one-click reports. So what? The benefit, fast, easy report generation. Again, so what? The value. Every part of the organization can make better decisions based on accurate, up-to-date metrics. Okay, there's the value. You have my attention. And that value is something that takes work and research and actually speaking with customers. And at the end of the day, that's the thing that all teams should align on and reflect in how they interact with customers and prospects. So with that in mind, the problem we're solving for with positioning and messaging, let's move on to the cross-departmental benefits and how to get buy-in from your stakeholders from the get-go. Now, there are a lot of touch points with the customer. It's easy to forget when everyone is heads down in their own work. None of these teams are intentionally misaligned. Positioning and messaging should be a priority for the whole organization. We want to make sure that sales isn't overpromising, marketing isn't too generic or high level, the product itself isn't confusing or doesn't align to the customer problems, etc. This ensures a consistent customer experience at every touch point and reinforces the problems that your product solves and how customers can find value in it. It's important to get these departments on board early, provide regular updates and check-ins, and get them to sense check the work along the way. It would be naive to think that the best outcome of positioning could be for product marketing to do it in a vacuum. Now, managing stakeholder expectations is key, both the input, what we will need from them, and also the output, what they will get from us in the end. We need these teams as partners on both ends of the project to make the most of it. And here's what that could look like. So in this example, the PMM program is product positioning. A required input could be that CSMs, sales, and product support we need CSM, sales, and product support for interviews and surveys. This could mean product sitting in on or helping to run customer interviews, and also help from CSM and sales to reach out and introduce the PMM and help schedule the interviews. And on the flip side, what these teams can expect from product positioning is strategic guidance for product development work and prioritization and marketing narrative and targeting. Another input for product positioning could be an impactful product roadmap that meets or exceeds customer expectations. And again, the output is strategic guidance for website and marketing material to increase top of funnel metrics and also to strengthen the customer-facing product roadmap for customer success and sales. Lastly, another example, the PMM program of overall narrative and messaging. The required input again is the CSM and sales support for interviews and surveys, and also marketing ops support and analysis. Now that could mean testing or website and display analytics, just to name a few. And then the expected output here is that PMM is to create and maintain source material to help marketing and enablement teams generate compelling campaigns and collateral. And if we're talking metrics, consistent value-led messaging should help increase top-of-funnel metrics like MQLs and SALs, help customers convert quicker, retain better, and improve customer satisfaction when their expectations are managed. Now, to further manage stakeholder expectations and also help them understand the weight and visibility of a project like this is to share a schedule of the process. Now at CM Group, we tend to run the process at the beginning of the calendar year, which aligns with when the product team runs their own product mission refresh. We usually do a mini version of this halfway through the year as well. Now this is just a suggestion and of course could be adapted to work with how your teams plan. But for us, from start to finish, it takes about 2 to 3 months. Obviously it can be faster or slower depending on how much resource you have for this. As I said, for us, this process is driven with the strategic product direction refresh. From there, we have check-ins with marketing, CS, and sales roughly every 3 weeks until the process is complete. And the first of these meetings is really to align on the strategic product direction, outline our process, the inputs and outputs from that previous slide, address any of their concerns, and capture any key learnings from those teams or things that they want us to consider as we go through the process. Then the subsequent meetings are for us to present our findings, ensure the direction we're headed aligns with these, and ensure the direction that we're headed aligns with these teams. After that initial meeting, the research part of the process is kicked off by PMM. More on this to come in the next section of the deck. And then the last ritual I have in this process is regular check-ins with the product team specifically. These are very similar to the meetings with marketing, CS, and sales to ensure alignment on our findings, but also to influence the ever-moving and evolving product roadmap. All right, so from the actual nitty-gritty of the process, begins with the research kickoff. Now, there are 3 key phases we go through as part of this process: generic customer feedback, targeted feedback, and then to categorize and create themes for that feedback. The generic feedback channels that we look at include NPS or voice of customer, reviews on third-party review sites, and also support cases. Now, depending on what platform you use for support, this one can be a bit tricky, but we have found that using like a keyword search or a category filter can help. But in saying that, this phase is tedious work, but it's worth it. If you have a customer community, that would also be a great place to look at this phase. The commonality with these channels and community as well, to some extent, is that it's all places where customers have been unprompted with a particular topic or question. So you can get a feel for what really is top of mind and identify themes and trends. There's probably a better way to do this, but I just use a trusty Google spreadsheet to track all this feedback, and then I just add a category or theme column, and then that helps to filter and quantify it. So once you've gone through the generic feedback and have a good sense of how customers are feeling, it's time to get some targeted feedback. We do this through an internal focus group followed by customer interviews and a survey. And it really all boils down to the question of why do customers choose us over our competitors, i.e., what is our competitive advantage? And I have a few examples of what that could look like. So for the internal focus group, super important for two reasons. One, it goes a long way from a stakeholder relationship perspective by involving these teams. And two, our customer teams are on the front lines every day talking to customers day in and day out. And they have a really unique perspective on what our customers love about us and where we might not stack up. So for the internal focus group, I like to have a representative from sales, support, professional services, which sometimes gets forgotten about, and also customer success. And I like to look for a mix of reps that have been here for ages and then some that are fairly new. And it's important to include folks who feel comfortable actually speaking in front of the group, and you as moderator of the focus group should not be doing much talking, but a lot of note taking. I like to have a few conversation starters prepped, but really let the team drive the conversation. However, if it starts to turn into a venting session or go down like a product feature request rabbit hole, try to bring it back on track. Oh, and yes, why do our customers choose us? For the customer interviews, I like to have a mix of customers across plan type, spend, and industry, as well as a mix of new and tenured customers. And I would recommend recording these interviews as well as recording the internal focus group. I also like to include an additional person, preferably someone from product, in these interviews. Again, it helps buy-in for the process, but it's always good for our PMs to hear directly from our customers. And there's really no magic number of how many of these you need, but I would aim for roughly kind of 7 to 10 interviews. And at this point, you should really start to see some trends emerge in how customers are answering your questions. Some of the questions that I like to include, I've listed here. So what platform were you using before switching, and what made you switch? How did you find out about our company? What business challenge do we help you solve? What value do we provide? If you had to choose a competitor, who would it be and why? How are we not meeting your needs today? What phrases or words come to mind when you think of our company? And how would you sell our company to a friend in a few sentences, which is an interesting one. But in saying that, I would really prioritize like your top 5 questions and hope to just get through those, as you'd hope to really have some really robust answers and a bit of back and forth instead of just like a rapid fire of 45 questions in 45 minutes. And I will say, make sure to choose kind of good customers. And what I mean by that are the ones that are in your target verticals, that aren't constantly complaining or putting in feature requests that we know that we're never going to build. Arguably, those are customers that we would be happy to see churn or never had in the first place, as they're not a great fit. Then for the survey, if you have an analytics or an ops team that like specializes in surveys, definitely involve them, but some high-level recommendations if you're going to do it yourself. Again, the audience should ideally be a mix of plan type, spend, and industry, new and tenured customers, and of course, making sure that your sample size is statistically significant. SurveyMonkey has a great little calculator on their site. I'm sure there's other ones out there too, where you can enter your customer count, what confidence level you want, and what margin of error you're willing to accept, and it'll give you the number of responses you need, so you don't need to guess what that number should be. The answers to your questions in the interviews combined with the generic feedback should inform the questions you ask in the survey, but make sure to use a lot of close-ended questions, which will make it easier to collate. Open-ended questions don't give quantitative answers. I also suggest linking the survey to your customer account so you can cut and splice on demographic, behavioral info, etc., however you'd like after the fact. Also, by linking this info, you don't have to waste questions in the survey itself asking customers to fill in stuff that you already have. And depending on the responsiveness of your customers, maybe how many surveys your company typically sends out, the size of your customer base, you can always consider offering an incentive for them to fill it out as well. So having a wide range of feedback channels gives you a good foundation to base your positioning and messaging on. Be prepared that this research could challenge existing assumptions, but be open to that. Okay, from here, you have this mountain of research and data. Now comes the fun part of identifying your key themes. So for this section, I'm going to use a real-life example from one of the ESPs in CM Group called Emma. At a high level, Emma is an ESP for SMB customers, mainly in the higher ed, restaurant, and fitness industries. We've got to focus on sort of distributed organizations and franchises for that brand. So when I look at all the feedback that we'd collected, I identified 3 key pillars for each source of feedback, as you can see here. Now, this is a combination of what customers love about us, what problems we help them solve, and also where we may need some improvement, which was then subsequently reflected in the product roadmap, so I could confidently use that as part of our positioning. So from there, we categorized the feedback in like groups, shown here by the colors. And lastly, we use those categories to create themes for the feedback. So in this case, the 3 themes were approachability, reassurance, and control. Now, it looks easy in these 3 slides as I've just quickly clicked through, but we really agonized over these 3 words as there's so much nuance and implication with our word choice. For example, we could have used ease of use, but instead we chose approachability based on the interview and survey responses and relied on those to really add color to the minimal phrases that you can see just here on the screen. Now, this will give you a good idea of who and what your product is currently serving. This whole process can be repeated with prospects or the wider market to give you an idea of whether or not your product is aligned only with current customers, only with the market, or hopefully both. And side note here, this would be a key place to stop and get aligned with your stakeholders before you move on and build on these themes. All right, so the research is done. Now on to positioning. As I said in the previous slide, we really agonized over which 3 words to choose for our themes. So to help us firm this up and input into the positioning, we looked at each of the themes and what we really meant by each of them. So as you can see here, when we say approachability, we mean not getting overwhelmed with getting started, not a huge time investment, can perform tasks as part of their day. For reassurance, knowing support is there if you need help. The tool gives confidence that you're doing things correctly. And lastly, control, the ability to lock down parts of the content to enforce brand guidelines, which is a really big thing for Emma customers, as you can imagine, being franchised or distributed. Visibility into and control over your email program, etc. So here I have the Emma product team mission, which is just a basic way of incorporating those 3 themes, which is provide our customers an approachable experience to email, giving them confidence to control and scale their marketing while providing reassurance every step of the way. And then for those 3 themes, after decomposing them on the previous slide, this is what we ended up with. So approachability, customers need software that's easy to set up, does not require previous ESP experience. Reassurance, customers need to know they're doing the best job they can and can get access to real-time customer support if required. And control, customers need to have visibility over their email marketing program and ensure brand consistency at every touch point. Now, to be clear, this is not something that we would go and put on the homepage of our site. This is the North Star that drives all the work of the product and eng teams and helps decide what makes it on the roadmap and what doesn't. It's also a great jumping off point for our positioning and messaging to ensure that consistency across the business. Oh, I did want to add that all of this work assumes a certain level of existing competitive intelligence. If you don't have existing comp intel, you would just add this as a step in the research process. So when going through this process, I like to look at our competitor websites, of course, but also their display ads, which is where I got those images that you see there. Moat.com is a great tool for this. And for us, we know that choosing an ESP can be really confusing for our customers, especially when everyone in the market is saying exactly the same thing. There's a bit of a lack of differentiation amongst ESPs, and most fall back on features as well as just generic ease of use. Now for our actual positioning. Take all that from the previous slides, we created this 3-part positioning slide, and I am going to read every word because I think it's important to hear where we landed after all of the research and themes that we identified. So the core value prop of what we do, Emma is the most approachable email tool for marketers of all skill levels and gives customers confidence to control and scale their marketing. Our hands-on group of email experts provide a guided experience which offers reassurance that customers' email program is the best it can be. The second part talks to our product value and how customers can really realize that through specific product capabilities. So our industry-leading email editor offers stunning templates with endless layout and editing options, while our robust integrations capabilities allow customers to effortlessly connect and utilize all their data. Centralized campaign review and approval, template controls, and asset management provide visibility into activity, brand protection, and overall consistency for growing teams. And lastly, the competitive differentiator of how we do it better. Emma is purposefully dedicated to email to allow customers, I can't see this, my little picture is in the way. I don't know how to get rid of it. There we go. Unlike other tools, Emma is purposefully dedicated to email to allow customers to focus on the channel that is most important to them without distraction. Our seasoned team of passionate email experts are here to help brands manage their email marketing strategy across 1 to 100 or even thousands of locations, which we leverage when advising on scale and end-to-end brand control. And again, this is an internal document for our teams, not something we would publish on our site. And this would be another great point in the process to share with your stakeholders and get alignment, making any tweaks from their feedback. So from there, the messaging part is, I want to say easy. It's obviously not easy, but relative, as you've already done all the groundwork. It's really just about fleshing it out and adding practical detail. So again, using Emma as an example, we now take each of the themes and identify the specific pain points that our customer experiences with each of these and how our product solves for the pain point. So here with approachability, the first one, customers need software that's easy to use and does not require training or previous ESP experience. And then on the flip side, the value messaging that addresses that, Emma is designed for marketers of all skill levels. Our tool is easy to navigate and intuitively takes you through the design and send process. Next pain point, customers need to get the most of the tools they use, but can be intimidated to try new features and strategies. Our value messaging, Emma offers personalized guidance and actionable reporting that allows you to confidently evolve your email program without spending excessive time exploring all corners of the tool. And the last one, customers need to optimize their time spent on email and don't want to reinvent the wheel with every email they send. How we solve for that, Emma's email automation allows you to set a trigger that will send to each individual contact when it's most relevant to them. And our HQ at-a-glance view of recent activity and results helps you identify successful campaigns that can be shared between accounts. And you would do that, the same thing for the other two pillars. In the interest of time, I won't go through those now, but you get the idea. And to give further detail to our stakeholders, we also include supporting features and success metrics for each of the pillars. This helps the team know what to focus in on when talking to one of these pillars or a specific pain point in a sales call, website copy, on a CSM quarterly review call, etc. So just to read out one of these, again, for approachability, supporting features are our personalized onboarding, overall ease of use, customer support, services and deliverability teams, our drag and drop editor, the help center, template and asset sharing, and then some of the success metrics that are associated with the tool being approachable is time saved, sub-account performance, and list health and growth. And lastly, in the positioning and messaging internal shareable deck, which includes all of these slides I've shown you now, we include some actual customer quotes to prove that customers are experiencing the value that we promise. Now, I also wanted to include a few practical application examples on how everything included in the positioning and messaging deck can be used by teams in their day-to-day work and not something that you just present once and then stays locked away in a virtual desk drawer, which is every PMM's nightmare. So buyer personas is the first example I have. This is the, excuse me, this is the first slide that we have as a template for our buyer personas. This slide shows just kind of the buyer journey, what triggers it, any barriers to purchase, etc. So you can see how that positioning and messaging, these pain points would come through here. We then have a 4-box of where a company meets and doesn't meet this buyer's goals, features that are important to them, and our key competitors in this space. And lastly, taking that pain point and value messaging slide and personalizing it specifically for this buyer. The next example I have is the customer-facing product roadmap. This is something that at CM Group, the PMMs maintain with input from the product team, of course. So this slide has been very well received by our customers and prospects alike. This deck is used by sales on pitch calls as well as by our CSMs on their quarterly review calls. We really wanted to show that our business has a clear strategy that starts with that mission, and then everything flows through to everything that is on the roadmap itself. This also helps sales reps and CSMs have conversations with their customers and prospects about why something potentially is not on the roadmap if it doesn't align back to this focus. Again, using the Emma example, I've got the 3 themes here, as well as how the roadmap focuses to each of them. So for approachability, the roadmap focus is how we're setting Emma up to grow with our customers through increased sophistication and scalability. For reassurance, the roadmap focus is contextual help, actionable reporting, improved onboarding, discoverability, and quick start options. And then for control, our new email editor, contact management, contact sharing, and ease of use improvements for some of our core areas. Also, I have to give it up for Flat Icon for the icons that I've used here. The next chapter of my life really began when I discovered that website. Then here is another slide that we include in the roadmap deck that just shows how each of the features we're building aligns back to one or more of the product themes by the color coding that you can see here. And then we'll just do one slide on any feature that is shipped or is about to ship, always with a screenshot or a GIF, and explain what the feature is, the benefit, and of course, the value. And the last example I have to share is a feature overview itself. So again, using Emma as an example, it might be a little bit small on your screen, but I'll pull out some pieces bigger. So this is a feature overview for our new email editor, and it all comes down to the language that we use and to how we incorporate the positioning and messaging into it. So using, again, the same examples from the Emma brand, you can see from the bits that I've pulled out here how the themes of approachability, reassurance, and control really come through. So it doesn't have to be complicated, greater flexibility for more control, almost verbatim there, build and preview all in the same screen, send beautiful emails with minimal effort. All right, so to wrap it up, my 5 key takeaways for today. The first one is managing stakeholder expectations, involving your teams in the process from the start and continually checking in. 2, letting the research drive the outcome. Document your process to ensure teams will listen and be open to the research itself. 3, push to identify the value. Don't stop at feature and benefit. Customers want to ensure that their actual goals are being met. 4, the practical application. Take your teams to the finish line and work with them to execute. And 5, do not set and forget. Positioning and messaging should be ever evolving. I recommend revisiting this every 6 to 12 months, as well as with any kind of milestone events. I also wanted to include a list of the tools and research I mentioned throughout the talk today. So the first one, moat.com for competitor display ads, flaticon.com for the free icons to support your presentations, thispersondoesnotexist.com for supporting persona avatars. So I don't know how it works, but it basically just generates people's faces that aren't actual real people. And I guess then you don't have to worry about, having a real person's face that you maybe don't have permission to use as a persona, and you can take it from there. The fourth one, third-party review sites. A few that we use are G2, Trustpilot, and Capterra for unprompted customer feedback. A sample size calculator. Again, I use SurveyMonkey, but I'm sure there's lots of other ones out there to ensure your survey results are statistically significant. And the last one, April Dunford's book, Obviously Awesome. I just have the asterisk there because obviously it's not free, but it's very affordable. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, please reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'd love to chat. Also, just a shameless plug, CM Group is hiring across the business, but specifically a few PMM and customer marketing roles in my team. So if you're interested, please check it out on cmgroup.com/careers. Thanks again for jumping on, and hope everybody has a great day.